Militarily Speaking, episode 63, Wounded Warrior Project.
This episode, we talk with Tanya Oxendine, Warrior Speak spokesperson with the Wounded Warrior Project.
Welcome to Militarily Speaking, brought to you by Armed Forces Bank. This is Tom McLean, and I'm with my wonderful co-host, Jodi Vickery, who is not celebrating a birthday today. I am the regional military executive for Armed Forces Bank, and Jodi, she's the executive vice president, director of consumer banking, and contributes a lot to this organization every single day.
My gift to you is that we're together and it's your birthday.
That is not a gift, and I want a receipt.
Return a gift receipt. Return to sender. Again, welcome to our show. We're excited to have you listening and learning about our guest, Tanya Oxendine with the Wounded Warrior Project. And Tanya, we'd love to share just a minute here or two with our audience about you before we dive in. So bear with us. This is not new information to you unless Tom made it up. So interject and call it out if he did.
Could be. I threw in a couple words in there. So let's see how you do.
Alliteration. Tanya Oxendine joined the United States Army a year after finishing high school, mostly to run away from a very difficult childhood and an abusive family. Unfortunately, she left one abusive situation only to find another, as the first half of her nearly 30-plus year Army career was marred by harassment. Yet instead of seeking help, she remained silent and kept the pain and emotions bottled up inside. She felt honored to be given the responsibility to serve her country, and she didn't want to jeopardize that. But eventually, during Tanya's last deployment in Afghanistan, all of the pent-up emotions started to take a toll on her mentally. It hit all at once in 2012 during the deployment in Afghanistan, says Tanya. The memories of the death and suffering I saw, all this stuff came crashing down, and I just couldn't take it anymore. But it would be 2 more years before Tanya finally sought help for her post-traumatic stress disorder and the severe depression and anxiety she was experiencing. The Wounded Warrior Project Talk program gave her the connection she needed to someone who not only listened, but as she came to realize was always there for her. She also received mental health treatment at Emory Healthcare, part of the Wounded Warrior Project Warrior Care Network, which helps veterans like Tanya who are living with PTSD. Before I found Wounded Warrior Project, I was really, really bad off, says Tanya. I felt like I was in quicksand, like something was just pulling me under. But my talk counselor, Seneca, gave me a glimmer of hope to just kind of keep holding on to that rope, like a lifeline he was throwing to me. Eventually, they got me out of what was quicksand to where I could go on with my life. And today, Tanya's passion is helping other veterans out of that quicksand through fitness and nutrition and by sharing her powerful story. Her goal is to help other warriors realize that they, too, can overcome the debilitating symptoms of PTSD. I feel better. I really do, says Tanya. I still have bad days and sometimes weeks, but then I reach back to the things I learned in Wounded Warrior Project programs, and I feel much better. Different kind of bio. I love that it's the personal story of you.
Yeah.
And how you are here with us today representing Wounded Warrior Project. Welcome to the show. It's a great honor to meet you and to have you here with us. I always like to start by asking our guests to just tell our audience kind of big picture about Wounded Warriors Project and kind of give them that backdrop, if you would.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jodi. And thank you, Tom. Thank you guys for having me and being able to spread the word about Wounded Warrior Project. And happy birthday to you.
Yes.
Happy birthday.
Wow.
To you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Love it.
All right. Thank you for joining us today. We just had a podcast. That ends our show.
He's going to make that his ringtone on his phone, I bet.
Yeah, record that and send it to me. That was priceless.
Yeah. Well, that's a great way to start off, is talking about Wounded Warrior Project and who we are. We always say that every warrior has a next mission, right? And we know that for our warriors, that transition life to civilian life is really a journey and is different for every warrior. It's different for every family member. And all those journeys look different. Wounded Warrior Project started back in 2003 as this small grassroots effort. And we started off by just giving simple care items and comfort items to the hospitals, to the bedside of those who came back from the wars of Iraq and Afghanistan, to those who were first wounded. And I tell you, it's been 20 years, right? And 20 years later, it really puts a smile on my face. And I'm grinning so hard right now. I know the audience can't see me. I can eat a banana sideways. Yeah, because
I'm writing that one down here.
Yeah, because it's even 20 years later, we're providing the needs for our warriors. Although that's evolved from just only the simple backpacks, because now we have so many services and programs today that service our veterans, that services our military warriors, programs for mental health and to physical health, career counseling, along with our advocacy programs. We get to improve the life of millions of warriors and their families every day. And it just means so much to us to be able to do that.
I will totally vouch for the smile. I actually had written down smile and circled it before you talked about eating bananas sideways because I was going to comment on it. It's quite infectious. I wish our audience could see it.
I didn't know you could eat it any other way.
But I use corn on the cob, banana, name it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the military career. Okay. We know that you and I spoke a lot for a good amount of time before we got on the podcast today, and appreciate all the great service you've done for our country. And so why don't we go back? We don't want to go back necessarily all the way through the 30-year career, but just talk about it, Tanya, where you were stationed, where you were deployed. You told us early before we started the podcast that you've moved a couple times in your military career, maybe like 16 kind of, and take us all the way to the command sergeant major for the Army.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So first, let me say, I am so doggone retired. Let me put that out first. I am retired. Take the R out. I am retired. Yeah. I get to live in this amazing place they call Tampa, Florida. And I mean, it's sunny and nice when it's not a hurricane and Hurricane Debbie and all those people.
Like Debbie, yeah. Debbie's gone. Wait for the next one. There's one for me.
There's one right behind her. Yeah, but I get to live in sunny Tampa, Florida. I have 2 adult sons. My oldest is Nuke. He's 37. And my youngest is Bam. He's 32. He has a birthday coming up on the 9th here in August. So now, listen, people, that's not their government names. That's their nicknames.
No code names there.
Yeah, they're code names. I also have a 13-year-old granddaughter and a whole bunch of nieces and nephews. And I don't know if it was a mistake or, well, I call it joy, right? Because having a 37-year-old and a 32-year-old, I also have a 10-year-old little girl.
Wow.
Yeah. And we call her Cookie. And and she has blonde hair. I know some of y'all eyebrows are raising because I'm a Black woman. She has blonde hair. She has these golden colored eyes. And like I said, we call her Cookie. But she's my little Labradoodle doggy. So, And then after high school, I joined the military, as you read in my bio, just to escape a tough past. I needed to leave that place. It was not a good place. I was seeking adventure and a purpose because at the end of the day, I knew deep down that I was destined for more. So with my drive and my leadership, it propelled me through the ranks in the military. I was a drill sergeant at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. I served at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. It's now Fort Liberty, North Carolina. I served in 18 Airborne Corps, and I also served in the 82nd Airborne Division as a master paratrooper. And that means that I jumped out of perfectly good airplanes for a living.
That was by choice.
Right? I volunteered to do that. And listen, I did it 77 times, and you never forget when you do something crazy like that. You always remember and you always keep count. So,
do you remember all 77?
I won't say I remember all 77, but I did 77. Some of
somebody kept count.
I landed so hard sometimes, you just got up and think you just start feeling around and make sure everything is still shaking out. And I broke my tailbone on a jump one time. That was awful. That was really bad. Yeah. And I proudly served in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I came in as a private. That was nothing on my collar, 0. And I moved up and earned the rank, and I retired as a command sergeant major, leading over 1,500. And that was thank you for clapping it up for me. I hope the audience clapping it up for me too. So that's the highest rank that I could achieve for my position. Serving my country has been one of the most rewarding aspects of my life. And it has really taught me some great lessons. So I wouldn't change a thing in my life. And that's even the trauma during my childhood and the trauma that and some of that trauma in the military. I wouldn't change a thing because it has made me who I am today.
Well said. Do you? How long have you been out?
10 years. I retired in 2014. So I tell you, I am so, I don't want to.
You are so retired.
I am so damn retired. That's what I really say. I am so damn retired.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I have to ask my husband if he's retired without the R tonight.
Yeah, without the R, like tired. Yeah. I'm retired.
I think he's only 6 years out. So maybe you don't get that retired until you're 10. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh,
he's still hoarding some old green socks in our sock drawer, so he might not be fully retired yet. They're kind of gross and faded. But
hey, when she's gonna purge when she moves again, she's getting rid of all her green socks.
Yeah, I got some I can send you.
I'm good, Jodi.
Yeah. So transitioning from that storied military career, how did you connect into Wounded Warrior Project and become part of that? I know from the bio we talked about that you tapped into their resources for you as an individual, but how did that transition into you being a part of Wounded Warrior Project? And then sort of describe for us what that looks like for you now in terms of how you're engaged with the organization and what that, every day, week, month, when you name it, looks like for you.
Yeah. So after I retired from Afghanistan in 2012, again, like you mentioned in the bio, my life just really started to just unravel, just out of control. And you mentioned about quicksand. Also, some days it felt like quicksand. Some days it felt like I was trapped in a boxing ring with a heavyweight boxing champion just beating me down. No matter how many times I tried to get up, I just get knocked down and knocked down. I try to stand up, I get knocked down and knocked down. And I remember in 2012, after we returned from Afghanistan, I was stationed. I had to move to Washington, D.C., and I was stationed at the Pentagon. I get a little emotional thinking about this.
That's all right.
And I'll never forget, I was in my office and I was looking out the window, and I'm looking out my window now in my living room, sitting here looking out, and the sun was shining just as bright as it's shining today. And I looked over at my colleagues and I said, you know what? I'll be right back, guys. I got to run some errands. So I went downstairs in the parking garage and got my car, and I started driving. And I'm driving and driving because that day my plan was to drive off a bridge. And I knew I would drown, and I knew I would die, and I knew I would not survive because I don't know how to swim. So what I do remember is that the Army instilled so much in me. And one thing it taught me was mental toughness. And that day, my mental toughness kicked in, and I turned that car around. And when I looked up, I was standing in front of the mental health counter at Fort Belvoir asking for help. And during that entire drive, my entire thoughts was consumed with my sons, Nuke and Bam. And it's because of Nuke and Bam and my love for them being so great that I couldn't bear of leaving the legacy of suicide. And Tom, you and I talked about it the other day, and I'm so glad to be alive. And I'm so glad that I drove to help and not to harm.
When you and I talked about that quote that you had, right? And that I haven't stopped thinking about it when you and I spoke, that you think about, that's thinking about your kids, right? And if our audience and our listeners, even if it's one listener that comes away with the same story, similar way of coping mechanism or ways to drive them to help, versus horror, then we've done our job as podcast host, and you've done your job as a spokesperson and somebody that's lived through it.
Yeah. And I battle with post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, severe depression. I was prescribed antidepressants, mood medication, pain medication, sleep medication. I mean, so many meds. It was this long, tough battle for 9 years, right? And then my mental health physician at Fort, because this is how we're all so connected, right? The communities and the Veterans Administration and Wounded Warrior Project and other supporting organizations. This is how we're so connected. My mental health physician at Fort Belvoir introduced me, was talking about Wounded Warrior Project. And from there, Wounded Warrior Project provided these services and programs to better my life. We have so many services and programs, and I always use a number kind of in between, over 15, because sometimes we may have more than that, around that, because it depends on the needs of the veteran. And all of our services are free to the warriors and our families. And like I tell everyone, there are three things that I like to talk about Wounded Warrior Project. We have so many programs, but the three that really helped me out. One was our physical health and wellness program, our Carry Forward program. That's a 5K walk run. And it's hosted in 4 cities around the United States, in Jacksonville, San Diego, San Antonio, and Nashville. And we also do it virtually. And we get together, just hundreds and sometimes thousands of people, along with our local communities and participants, the warriors, Wounded Warrior Project staff, and we all come together and we get out there and we do some physical health and walk and run on this Carry Forward. And that's to carry the mission forward with that. And then the other 2 are mental health programs. The Talk program, where you mentioned Seneca Gully, was my talk partner. And that's a non-clinical program where you get a phone call every week and you're connected with a support person from Wounded Warrior Project that connects with veterans and their families. And you just talk through various issues and your goals and what you want to do. And I was part of the Talk program and the Warrior Care Network program. Now that program, along with so many others, was really influential in my healing. Really influential in my healing. And that's a 2 to 3 week mental health treatment program. And they help with post-traumatic stress disorder, traumatic brain injury, military sexual trauma, and so many other mental health issues. Again, and it's tailored for the specific needs of our veterans and their care, because all of us have a unique journey.
You talked about those on the physical health side, the 4 or 5Ks. Do they all take place on the same day?
They don't take place on the same day, different days and times around with those 4 host cities. So we have 4 host cities, like I said, Jacksonville, San Diego, San Antonio, Nashville. Then you can also do it virtually. And again, all that can be found on our website at woundedwarriorproject.org. And that's our volunteer program where people in the community can volunteer with our Carry Forward.
Those wouldn't be bad host cities to visit.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Road trip.
And you talked about traveling. So I travel quite a bit as a spokesperson for Wounded Warrior Project. And that's because they've helped me so much. In the beginning, I volunteered for about 3 years with Wounded Warrior Project as I was getting treatment and that, because it's just such a wonderful organization. But I believed in this organization so much so that I decided to come out of retirement and I did. And to go to work for them as a spokesperson. And I've been with Wounded Warrior Project out of retirement now for about 2 years. And I get to travel the world and share my stories as an outspoken advocate for veterans, for mental health, for physical health, for military sexual trauma. And I travel an average about 6 to 10 days a month, maybe a little bit more.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah. So next month I think I have 7 or 8 trips. So I'm going to Miami, California, Illinois, and a few states in between.
I was going to ask you how far out is your schedule planned in advance? Do you have it for till like the end of the year now, or is it not? I do, but we have, again, you can go to if anyone would like, we have 11 speakers, spokespeople for Wounded Warrior Project, not including our national campaign team. But again, if someone listening would like for any of us to come out and speak at their organization to spread awareness about Wounded Warrior Project, again, to go to the website, woundedwarriorproject.org. It's just an amazing organization, just, again, over 20 years providing programs and services for our veterans that definitely have earned that, right? Because that's our mission, is to empower our veterans. When I reached out to you too, it was sort of just a cold call, if you will. And next thing you know, nobody knows who Militarily Speaking was at the time. And the next thing you know, you showed up in our life, and we're pretty thankful for that.
Yeah, so, yeah, we are too. Yeah,
there's a hashtag out there, right? You're pretty social media savvy, aren't you, Jodi?
Yes, a little bit.
Yeah.
But Jodi, I'm gonna need you to come post some stuff for me on my social media then.
I'm too busy managing my kid.
I know, that's right.
So maybe I just stumbled across this. There's a hashtag combat stigma.
Mm-hmm.
You want to tell our audience about that?
Yeah, well, just like you were mentioning, it's a social media campaign or movement or just a campaign to reduce the stigma associated with mental health. Early on, before I started talking about mental health and stuff, because again, I could talk not all day, but everyone has a story, and my story is part of that stigma as well. in our community, the Black community, being a Black female, we don't talk about mental health, especially growing up. Didn't talk about that now, talk about that then. But it's particularly a stigma with our military personnel and our veterans. So this campaign encourages us to speak openly and have these conversations about mental health so that we can normalize seeking help. We need to normalize going out asking for help. I knew that I would have to fight to get out of that ring with that heavyweight boxer. I would have to fight to get out of that quicksand, out of that cage of depression for those 9 years, right? And even though I struggled, and it was a deep struggle, I'm thankful that Wounded Warrior Project to help me just to find a new way to approach this stigma instead of avoiding it. And I get to do that by speaking, going out and speaking and advocating for our veterans and just talking about mental health. It helps strengthens my mental health. And it's because of the physician at the VA. It's because of the talk program with Seneca Gully. It's because of the Warrior Care Network team that I'm able to share my story. I usually say and tell people when I'm out that there is a better life and life is worth living. It's worth living. And this is how we have, and if I have to be the one, because I ain't scared no more, y'all. I'm not scared. I'm not. I will get out and I will speak up and I will speak loud to combat this stigma of not talking about mental health. It's okay. And I'm going to continue to fight for my mental well-being and for that of others by doing that.
So when we started, I wrote down the word smile, right? I shared that. I just wrote down powerful. You're a pretty amazing person. And we're just a few minutes in here. So,
yeah.
So based on all that, and clearly you're a super genuine, authentic, you're willing to share your story as you mentioned, and you've shared with us. Could you talk to our audience about that journey in the military, specifically as a woman, as a female in the military, especially as you rose through the ranks to the most senior enlisted position there as Command Sergeant Major, and what that was like for you?
Yeah. What do they call it? I was wet under the ears when I came in.
Yep.
Yeah. But, I was, when I got in, I knew from day one when they started fussing and telling us to get on the bus and pick your bags up. I knew that was for me, coming from the background I grew up in. But I tell you, I was a fit, lean fight machine. I was a go-getter, as what we call a fast tracker, meaning I was getting promoted faster than a lot of my peers, and I was being selected for higher positions. And I'll tell you, part of my success is because I was like I said, a brand new private, but I took the advice of Sergeant Tammy Rice. I will never forget Sergeant Tammy Rice. And she said, you better write it down. So I wrote down aggressive goals for myself for promotion and goals just to excel as a leader. And I'll tell you 4 of them that I wrote down, and I still have them. And one of them number 4 was to go to the gym twice a day and run on the weekends, because I wanted to be in tip-top physical condition, right? Because in the military, we have one mission. Well, we have more than one, but our main mission is to fight and win wars. So I wanted to always be in tip-top physical shape and to stay ready. My 3rd one was to stay current on regulations and the responsibilities of my job, because I wanted people to count on me to get the job done. And my 2nd one was to always exceed the standards. And my 1st one was to choose the hard jobs that no one wanted. To go to drill sergeant school, to go to airborne school, to get assigned to the best division in the Army, the 82nd Airborne Division. Because I wanted to lead soldiers and I wanted to lead by example. And I tell you, still to this day, I take important notes and I set aggressive goals for myself. While I'm not an expert and I will not be on anybody's Olympic team in anybody's near future, but I did learn to swim. So I learned to swim. I set that goal for myself and I learned to swim. Yeah, I was just determined to be the best leader possible. And a lot of times when I say I earned the highest rank, and people once they realize my role in the military, my most common question I get asked is, what's your formula? What's your secret? What's your cheat code? There's not one. You just got to be authentic. You got to be credible. You have to be empathetic. You have to empower others. That's what we do at Wounded Warrior Project. You have to be a role model and take care of people. And that includes being stern and hard, but fair, right? Yeah. And you guys mentioned how I grew up in some hard and unaccommodating situations. You know, we were poor on food stamps, welfare. My mother was a single parent of me and my brother. And just joining the military was really one of the best things that ever happened to me. And I served mostly in male-dominated units as a drill sergeant, as a paratrooper, and even when on my deployments. And I was the only Black female as a senior leader in most meetings and just with my peers and things like that. And I excelled in my career, but I felt very isolated. I felt like there was no room for error. I felt like it was more pressure to succeed. I had been discriminated against. I had been harassed. I had been talked about and judged. And not one of my peers, especially as I became a senior leader, not one of my peers looked like me. They didn't understand me. No one volunteered to mentor me. So I did what I thought was best. I built this wall around myself, like the Great Wall of China, right? To protect myself to protect myself from all those people. And I said, I don't need them. I can do this on my own. So I kept this wall up. But if we really know kind of and I'm not an expert history buff, but if we kind of understand what the Great Wall of China was for, it was to keep the enemy out. But it really kept the people of China isolated. And that's what my wall did for me. It kept me isolated. And I was being too independent. And I had to figure out that the definition of being independent means to not be influenced by others. It means doing it by yourself. So then I had to learn interdependence and being part of a team. And while some of my peers and leaders, they did treat me badly, it was so many that did not treat me badly. It was so many that did not treat me badly. And all I had to do was reach out again to ask for help. And it's just learning lessons, you know, and thank goodness I reached out this time at the right time. And that's why I'm still here. Leadership is not about ruling people. It's about presenting yourself as someone who people can follow for guidance. And that's what I've learned over my just years of being a leader. It's about winning the hearts and minds of people to follow your vision. It's about teamwork. It's about interdependence. It's about accepting the good, the failures, and the rewards. It really is. Leadership is not a position. Leadership is a choice. And if part of that choice is being part of a team, it really is. And that's, again, another reason why I choose to be a part of Wounded Warrior Project, because we are a team that's helping so many warriors and their family members.
Hey everyone, if you're looking for a little extra financial flexibility to take the family on a vacation, tackle that home renovation, or just get through the ups and downs of military life, we've got some great news for our military listeners.
Absolutely. Armed Forces Bank offers access loans that are perfect for handling life's unexpected expenses, consolidating debt, or even making that big purchase you've been thinking about. And with our fast approval process, you can get the funds you need quickly and easily without all the hassle.
At Armed Forces Bank, about 75% of our team is affiliated with the military, so we understand your unique needs. We've been supporting military families for over 100 years, and we're here to help you take control of your finances.
Whether you're active duty, a veteran, or a reservist, we're committed to offering you flexible terms and competitive rates, making sure you get a loan that fits your life.
So if you're ready to take that next step, head over to afbank.com or visit a branch near you. Armed Forces Bank, serving those who serve.
Member FDIC, subject to credit approval. Origination fee applies. Direct deposit relationship required. Loan terms are based on loan amount. She talks about writing down goals, right? Mm-hmm. And you think about, well, if you don't have goals, you don't know where to go. And if you're stuck in quicksand or in a boxing ring,
right? Having
those goals written down, I'm glad you carry those with you to this day, too. Yeah. And I even wrote all of them down. It said, go to the gym 2 times a year. Right? Was it a day?
We're on the modified plan.
No, I appreciate you telling our audience about what it meant to be a woman in the military and some of the challenges that you had to experience and that you overcame them and you found ways to overcome them. But I think some of the reasons why there's so many different organizations out there supporting veterans is that sometimes they just don't know where to go. Right. They don't know what help to get, what's available to them. Mm-hmm. And Wounded Warrior, I mean, Jodi and I have heard about your organization probably since 2003 because you do a great job promoting your brand.
Yeah.
And getting the right spokespeople to promote who you are. So you're almost a household name. But I have to believe that it's still a place where it's very broad, right? And the whole environment is broad about what to select. So how do you help an individual wounded warrior sort of tap into the right resources, the right people, the support system to ensure that they don't lose all that's available out there for them, right? So how do you keep them centered? How do you keep them focused? And like you said, there's anywhere from physical health, mental health to care programs. But how do you keep them focused on how you can help them?
Yeah. And thank you for recognizing the breadth of Wounded Warrior Project's reach, recognizing that and that we are becoming a household name, because again, sharing that awareness, we can just help so many more of our veterans, our warriors and their family members. And we understand that navigating that extensive range of resources can be overwhelming. Again, you said that's why there are other organizations out there that's helping, and we come together and collaborate. We understand that can be overwhelming. So we take a personalized approach to ensure that each warrior connects with the support that they need. From our resource center, again, you can go to our website, woundedwarriorproject.org. From our resource center to our benefits team, our teams work closely with each warrior to assess their specific needs and goals. That's why I said over 15 programs, because each goal and need may change. And then we get to guide them to the appropriate program and resources and support systems that they may need. We get to focus on building strong teams and building strong relationships with our local communities, with our donors and our supporters, such as yourselves, so that we can make sure that no warrior feels lost or overlooked, and that they can receive the tailored, and I say
tailored, that's a good word.
Right.
Yeah.
The tailored, necessary assistance that they need for their unique journey.
It's not a cookie cutter. It's personalized, it's customized.
Yes, sir.
And it's,
yes, sir. It is.
Yeah.
And as of this month, we've served over 207, almost not over, because I think it's 269. So we're close. Nearly 270,000 warriors and their families.
That's amazing.
Big number.
Yeah, that's a big number.
And to take the time to make sure that it's important to give them that tailored, customized.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Right, Jodi.
Yeah, absolutely. So for wounded warriors that come back around and start to participate in delivery of the services,
like Tanya,
like you're doing with wounded warriors.
Yep.
Talk about how that may be part of your continued healing process for you, or for somebody else that comes back to give back to wounded warriors after the organization has helped them through whatever life threw their way.
Right. So we find that wounded warriors come back around to help facilitate services for others. Like, it becomes this powerful part of their continued healing journey. It becomes so powerful. And warriors do that through our peer support groups. They do that through one of our programs called Project Odyssey. And that's a 5-day mental health retreat program where warriors that have post-traumatic stress disorder or other invisible wounds, we help them. That's a retreat that opens them up to just new experiences, to develop their coping skills and their communication skills, again, so they can achieve those personal goals to make lifelong positive changes. And that's our Project Odyssey program. We also have a program called Soldier Ride. And that's fun. Again, something physical, right?
It sounds fun.
Yeah. So we get all these bikes. We get incumbent bikes, again, tailored for each veteran, right? For each warrior. And that's a multi-day riding event that just helps warriors build their confidence through shared physical activities. And we get to bond in a supportive environment. And we say that warriors never ride alone. We move forward together as a unit, just like we did in military service. Yeah. Our warriors, we get to engage with and support each other. And when we do that, like now I just get chill bumps. It allows us to find a renewed sense of purpose and connection. And that's something that we kind of lose when we transition out, that sense of belonging, that sense of depending on each other. That's essential for our healing process. And, Helen Keller said, alone, we can do so little. Together, we can do so much. And I just love that.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So people visit your website. We'll say it again, right? www.woundedwarriorproject.org. There's a plethora of information out there, right, Jodi? Plethora?
That's Tom's favorite
word. A whole lot.
Yeah.
Just say a whole lot of.
There's a whole lot of
information.
Whole lot of plethora.
Tom feels super smart when he says plethora.
If it's multisyllabic, I'm going to feel smart. Yeah. All right. So as they go out there, certainly they're going to find a lot of information out about your organization. But are there ways that people can donate, volunteer, certain areas you want to point our audience that might be beneficial for them to zone in on something where it might be good for them to sort of follow their heart, follow their lead?
Yeah. So when people visit our website, again, as you mentioned, woundedwarriorproject.org, they'll find the plethora. Let me not try that big word. They'll find a whole lot of information about our mission, our program, and our services for our warriors and their families. And they can learn just various ways on that website. They can learn so many ways that they can assist our warriors in their recovery journey, just mental health and physical health journey. There are also some clear options on how to get involved, whether it's like our volunteer program with Carry Forward, the 5K, or whether it's through donations or participating in events. The website it provides easy to follow steps so that they can make a meaningful contribution. Again, whether it's donations, volunteering, or participating in a event. And I think you asked about someone being interested in becoming a speaker.
Yeah.
If they look at the site, it outlines how a warrior can share their story to get involved in advocacy or outreach efforts with Wounded Warrior Project, because we are always looking for passionate individuals who want to inspire others and help amplify the voices of our nation's heroes.
But Tanya, if someone wants to be a Tanya and wants to be sort of travel and do the speaker engagements or be on a podcast, is there a qualification process, a background process?
What they can do is go to our website where we employ our veterans at Wounded Warrior Project. Now, before I talk on that, we also have, again, if they go to the website, woundedwarriorproject.org, we have a program for employment called Warriors to Work.
Okay.
Where we help our warriors find employment, whether it's within Wounded Warrior Project or outside of Wounded Warrior Project. If it's within Wounded Warrior Project, which is an amazing organization to work for, you can go to the website Cool Careers, COOL Careers, coolcareers.com.
Okay.
Very good.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm backtracking a little bit back into the earlier part of our conversation, but I want to ask about maybe some specific kind of services that you might find. I think it's easy for folks in our audience to wrap their head around somebody that's in the wounded warrior community because of a physical injury. And I think they can maybe understand some of the mental injuries. I'll say it that way. That might not be the right way to say it, but I would think that you probably also have folks that had no physical harm necessarily to themselves, but they survived when their buddies didn't. And that's a different kind of, I think, mental injury or emotional injury.
Right.
And how do you help warriors that kind of might be in that mode? And how do you help with really a holistic approach to their healing process?
Yeah. You meaning like survivor's guilt?
Yeah.
So we have what we call our visible wounds. Of course, someone that might be missing a limb, someone that may be wheelchair bound, someone that may have severe burns and that kind of thing. We also have what we call our invisible wounds. And that's what I deal with post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, depression, traumatic brain injury, military sexual trauma, those type of things. And then also there's the survivor's guilt. Again, that's not physical or, visible. That's an invisible wound. So the survivor's guilt, along with other mental or emotional injuries, can be incredibly challenging for our warriors to navigate. So at Wounded Warrior Project, we recognize that healing is not just about dressing the physical wounds, but also supporting the whole person. And our holistic approach to healing encompasses our mental, emotional, social well-being alongside the physical recovery. And we offer a wide range of programs that addresses those invisible wounds, like the survivor's guilt. I mentioned earlier, our talk program, our peer support programs, and just so many other mental health programs. And we just focus again on building community connections and providing the tools, the warriors, the tailored to those warriors so they can regain a sense of purpose.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
By the way, I was going to ask her why she's proud to work there, but I don't have to ask her that. You are proud to work there. You can.
I am so proud to work there. And I tell you, and not only is eating that banana sideways, but have you ever stood around and they say, "Oh, let's get together and take a picture," and you're like, "Hurry up! My jaws are shaking. My jaws." I am, and I smile so much when I talk about Wounded Warrior Project that until my jaws shake. Because I am grateful for Wounded Warrior Project. I'm grateful for them being a part of my healing. And if I can be a part of an organization that helps people heal, then the end of my service is not the end. I just get a fresh start with a new team. I'm 58 years old. I'm not a Leo. I'm an Aquarius born in February, which are the best. But
hey,
happy birthday, Tom.
Yeah, it's
you're gonna have to call me back in February, and then you have to sing happy birthday to me, Tom.
worst birthday present ever. Thanks, Tanya.
But yeah, so I just get a fresh start with a new team. And being 58 years old, although I think I know everything, I don't. I tell my kids I do. But I do know this, that life will not give you a second chance, but it will give you a fresh start to ask someone for help, and a fresh start to help someone. And it'll also give you a fresh start to heal. That's why I'm proud to be a part of the Wounded Warrior Project.
I think that comes through in every word that has come out of your mouth.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
You might be a little biased, but how good is your son at basketball?
He's pretty darn good. He is pretty darn good.
So give me some sort of sense of understanding here, right? Jodi's got a solid basketball player in her family too, like her daughter. But if you had to compare him to a current player that our audience knows or that I know, how good is he? At what level?
I would compare him to because he's strong and he's strong and he's 6'3", 185 pounds of pure muscle. So between LeBron and Steph,
we're gonna have to erase this podcast because now you're gonna give him a big head for that.
Let's doing the night.
Yeah, well, see, he's not here, so I can say that. I can't say that in front of him because
just tell your son that they have gold medals and he doesn't. Okay.
Well, that's true.
Yet.
He's pretty good. He's got a level head. After he graduated college in 2015, he knew exactly what he wanted to do. Me and his dad thinking, oh, well, he's going to get this good government job and he's going to work here. He didn't want to join the military, but next thing we knew, he said, hey, Mom, I'm going overseas. I found my own agent and I'm going overseas. And he's been playing professional basketball overseas since 2015. So going on 10 years. He's played in Italy, Indonesia. He just left the Dominican Republic. Before that, he was in Taiwan. He's been to Australia. He's been to Korea.
He's traveled more than you have internationally?
Yeah. Right. Yes, he has. Yeah. He's
a cool life, though.
He's a very handsome, well-traveled gentleman. So
that's awesome.
See the world and get paid doing it.
He's single, young ladies. He's single.
Did you just put a plug in for her son?
I did. He has no
I'm
kids.
guessing
He got a good
she's
job.
going to screen him like I would.
Yes, Jodi, you already know, honey.
Yep. All resumes go to Mom.
Absolutely.
And Tanya's phone number is 555.
Oh, that's awesome. Good for him living his full life.
Yeah, he is.
Tanya, as we kind of close out the podcast, I wonder, other than your powerful story, is there another story that you would share with our audience to just relate to them the heart of what Wounded Warriors does?
Yeah.
I know you're probably picking one from a million stories in your mind.
I know, right? Again, we all have so many stories, and there are countless stories that highlight the profound impact that Wounded Warrior Project has had on our lives and our military community. And one that stands out for me is about this team of 18 Marines, and they were on a helicopter flying a routine air patrol. And as that helicopter hovered, it made the whoosh, 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 whoosh sounds, right? And then it started to fly away. And all of a sudden, a loud bang as it crashed into 600 feet of water off the coast of Somalia. Now imagine those 18 Marines in 600 feet of uncontrolled cold water. Imagine this chaos, propeller blades spinning out of control, debris flying everywhere, it's sounds of destructions, fires are burning, right? On that tragic day, 4 Marines were killed and 14 were injured. And after serving their country, one of those Marines his name is John Malia, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He knew that he wanted to do something to help the new generation of wounded warriors coming back home from Iraq and Afghanistan. So in 2003, John and a group of his friends, they visited Walter Reed Medical Center in Bethesda, Maryland, and they only had a few backpacks. And those backpack had some personal items, just toiletries, clothes, underwear, and just things like that. And it was just a simple act of kindness for all those injured warriors coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. And the reason for that is because when you're injured on the battlefield, all your clothes are cut off. Your uniform is cut off. And that's done so that the medical team can assess your injuries. And when they're in the hospital, they just have on that hospital gown. Y'all know the one with the back out that you can never tie right. Yeah.
Right.
That's a design flaw.
Yeah. That's a design flaw. Is that what it is? They just got them for cheap because it's a design flaw. Got them in boxes and bundles.
Bulk.
Got them in bulk. So if we just fast forward a little bit, Danielle Green, a young soldier, was injured in Iraq and she lost her left arm to a rocket-propelled grenade. And Danielle received one of those backpacks when she was in the hospital out there, and with the toiletries and the underwear. And I just want you guys to imagine that all the items were male items, right? Oh. Because these were all men coming that was packing those friends were all men, all Marines that packed the backpacks. So it had all male items in there. And Danielle, she didn't care. She pulled those boxes out and they was 2 sizes too big. She got those little tighty whities. She did not care. She was just happy to be having something that she can call her own and didn't have to have that hospital gown floating in the back. Right. And I tell you, the last time I spoke to Danielle, she said, I'm proud to still have that backpack 20 years later. She said it meant so much to me then when I got it, and it still means a lot to me today. And I tell you, now if you just step back a little bit, and that was a story about Danielle receiving that backpack. In 2003, after that group of Marines delivered the first set of backpacks, the next day, a nurse from Walter Reed called and requested 200 more backpacks be delivered. And that's how Wounded Warrior Project was born. Now, I've never met John Malia, but I am so glad for what he did. And I am so glad the Wounded Warrior Project exists. And still, after 20 years, we're still helping warriors heal. We still pass out backpacks. And again, we've evolved to so many programs and services for our warriors.
And many more years to come. Doing that same great service. Yeah.
And I think they're sure lucky to have you.
Thank you.
And they normally say drop the mic right after, but I'm gonna in your case I'm gonna say bam.
Bam.
So basically, we covered your son. He's available. Yeah.
Yeah. Bam. Right. That's his nickname. That's not his government name.
Yeah. No code word there. Yeah. It's bam.
Bam.
So, bam. We're at the end of our show and we're going to play a little game with you.
Okay.
She's like, oh, no.
Okay. I think.
She's going to say, reception's going. No,
yeah.
I can't hear you.
Hold on. Let me get a sip of my caffeine. Let me see.
It's super painless as a game, as far as games go. It's called the Military Minute. We rather like it. So every podcast episode, we have a trivia question that relates either to the podcast episode or something about our guest. But
she said, "Oh."
But last time, so we got to deal with our last episode and the question we asked about our last guest. So if you know this one, you can answer. I would never, ever know this in a million bajillion years, but Tom's a friend of Google. So the question about our last guest, who hailed from Philadelphia, was what was the original name of Philadelphia? Never in a million years.
Oh, my goodness. What was the original name of Philadelphia?
Don't Google it.
Like if
don't
you
ask
say it.
Hands up.
Right.
You say it, you can drop
cheese.
Oh, good.
Rocky.
Cream cheese.
Yeah.
It was not cream cheese. It was, hold on, it's Shaq-a-Maxon.
What?
That sounds like, that makes me think of Shaq. They're just talking about basketball.
You're thinking of Shaquille O'Neal?
Shaq-a-Maxon, apparently.
And then there's a guy, Maxey, that plays for the 76ers. So maybe I was duped.
Shaq-a-Maxon. According to Tom, the original name of Philadelphia was Shaq-a-Maxon. So if you and our audience figured that out and you put that on our last podcast drop, watch for your name to be selected to enter $50 for you and $50 to a charity of your choice. And this week's Military Minute is about Wounded Warrior Project. So you cannot answer. You're probably going to know, but you cannot answer.
I think she'll know the answer, don't you?
She probably will, but she can't answer. In what city was Wounded Warrior Project founded? So if you are listening and you see this,
she's got that look. She's got
like,
the look of, I
she
know.
said, I'm so commenting the answer.
Yeah.
So if you know and you watch this podcast drop and listen to it, feel free to comment your answer in the comments. And then you too could be eligible to win $50 for yourself and $50 to a charity of your choice. Maybe somebody like Wounded Warriors Project. For sure.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. You're an absolute treat.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed today's episode, go out to afbank.com and subscribe to the show. Also, make sure to rate us. Leave us a comment on your favorite podcast platform, such as Apple, Spotify, and YouTube.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Copyright Armed Forces Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. All non-Armed Forces Bank owned apps, websites, company names, and product names are trademarks or registered trademarks of their respective owners. Their mention does not imply any affiliation with or endorsement by Armed Forces Bank of them or their products and services. They are merely used as examples of the many available apps, companies, and websites that offer similar services. Before using any app or website, you should carefully review the terms of use, data collection, and privacy policy. Apps may have an initial cost or in-application purchase features. This information is general in nature and is not intended to be legal, tax, or financial advice. Although Armed Forces Bank believes this information to be accurate, it cannot ensure that it could change. Statements or opinions of individuals referenced herein are their own, not Armed Forces Bank. Consult an appropriate professional concerning your specific situation and respective governing bodies for applicable laws, such as IRS.gov for current tax law. Armed Forces Bank, the Armed Forces Bank logo, and the Militarily Speaking logo are registered trademarks of Armed Forces Bank.